Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. Today I'll be talking about a book called Juniper by Jeffery. This is a novella firmly set in the horror genre. Juniper is the name of a small, forgotten town in the southern United States. In recent times, it's experienced major flooding that destroyed a lot of infrastructure. Farming and hunting were rendered almost impossible, and the people struggled to get by. Things went from bad to worse as the summertime brought extreme heat and a drought that put a nail in the coffin of any attempt to farm the land. The people struggled to find food and were getting desperate. A savior would emerge in the form of resident Janet Leahy. Janet began raising cats a while back with the idea to help farmers by culling the rodent population. She interbred them, and the cats got bigger and meaner. Now, to combat the current famine, Janet decides to turn her cats into the town's new cattle and sell them for food. I'm going to read part of the blurb on the back of the book for you. But there's a problem. Janet's prized ginger Tom Bucky has gone missing, flown the coop. As Janet and her deranged ex-con husband Klein intensify their search for the hulking mongrel, Betty Davis, an old woman clinging to survival on the outskirts of Juniper, discovers something large and ginger and laying half dead by the side of the road. She decides to take it home. The bulk of the book is told from the points of view of Betty and Janet, and we also get a little bit from Klein. At this point, I'd like to mention a content warning for domestic abuse. There are no monsters in this book except for human monsters, and Klein is the worst offender. He delights in dishing out punishment to his wife Janet and making her life miserable. He's delusional and accuses Janet of being unfaithful and talking back to him. An all-around rotten person. Klein is definitely the worst, but a lot of the residents of Juniper have gone a little crazy from their environment. At one point, Janet is looking at her arm and the various wounds caused by Klein. I'll read the paragraph. She reached for her coffee. Noticing her scarred forearm, she recoiled briefly. It was disgusting. Ragged and burned cuts and pockmarks dotting the skin where Klein had sealed the wounds with cigarettes. The one from yesterday was now a bloody red blister, like mayonnaise mixed with ketchup. The thought made her laugh. What the town wouldn't give for mayo and ketchup, maybe she could supply them by popping the burn marks on her arms. Her own little vengeful secret sauce. Hopefully you weren't eating anything when I read that. The book definitely has some very nice grotesque descriptions in it. That brings me to Betty. Despite her discovery on the side of the road, Betty has no intentions of telling Janet. She has other plans in mind, and there's some good tension here as we find out what those plans are and the build-up to see if she actually follows through with them. When I was reading this, I was begging, pleading for anyone to interfere and stop her. Juniper contains the most difficult-to-read scene in any book I've ever encountered. The first time I read it, I was literally squirming in my seat, but I had to keep going. I didn't want to stop. The second time I read it, I stood up and paced around the room. I think it would be impossible to just sit still and calmly read it. It's horrifying and definitely a job well done by the author. The climax is also very well done as we're treated to a delightful twist, which leads to a satisfying conclusion. Juniper moves along at a brisk pace, and it never drags at any point. The last thing I'd like to mention is the quote at the beginning of the book. Normally I don't pay much attention to these quotes, but this one is different. It's a quote from Edgar Allan Poe. I remained too much inside my head and ended up losing my mind. I think this was a brilliant choice as it fits the book perfectly and is my favorite use of a quote in any book I've ever read. If you're into horror, I highly recommend Juniper. It's definitely unique, and it's dark, it's a little grotesque, but it's also a fun read. It's actually also part of a trilogy. The follow-up to Juniper is called Tome, and Ross was nominated for a Bram Stoker Award for that one. Definitely check out Juniper, and if you do, let me know. You can visit me on Twitter at A Happy Moment Pod and tell me what you think. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.